In the spirit of that practicality, I think that'll be even useful for me. One of the things you mentioned was this like being in a city surrounded by metal. What is it about metal that cancels the spiritual energy?
It's the physics of biologic architecture. Ours is the most sophisticated biologic architecture curriculum on the planet. We're the first ones to teach architects to learn whether they deserve a paycheck if their building has a correct electric field to cause a seed to grow. And we show three forms of measurement, golden mean.info/architecture, and implosive capacitance in buildings is destroyed the more steel and aluminum is in that building. And the physics is simple. The dielectric constant is wrong. The capacitive charge of your aura cannot propagate through it. Literally, your aura cannot breathe. So that if the walls are made of biological material, high dielectric constant, because the molecules in biological material learn to get fractal or get dead, and so they achieve charge distribution efficiency, the definition of life, high dielectric constant. So wood and natural fabric, et cetera, and natural stone, creates a capacitive field that your aura can unpack into, and you can literally inhabit the space. So the steel aluminum, if you just put something aluminum in your hand, you feel your aura die immediately just when you touch it. It's because the capacitance is a total sink for your aura, which is why the coins in your pocket heat so quickly.
Interesting. So do you think this sounds like it relates with in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean, he describes that how the realm of the curves was where he was able to ascend and go travel through time and space, but the realm of angles were sharp with demons, and it sounds like the realm of angles is kind of like speaking to like inside of a city where everything's so structured and ordered and there's no curves, there's no organic life. Is that relative?
Well, geomancy in the Chinese sense has always taught that sharp corners were evil geomantically, and they were indirectly right because the sharp corner will bleed capacitance. So the issue is to conserve capacitance and not bleed the charge. That's the reason that sharp corners are evil in geomancy, actually.
Right.
Perfect curvature is non-destructive self-reentry, obviously golden mean spiral implosion. And that non-destructive self-reentry is the only definition of the origin of self-awareness.
Interesting. Okay. So you say for people listening then, like the best place to live would be outside of a city, at the very least on the edge of the city, but ideally in nature, somewhere like out of a city.
Well, there's a few, like in Prague, we were able to lucid dream dramatically better, but classically the Prague magnetic map, and we have pictures of Golden Eden / Bohemia and Prague. The magnetic map of Prague originally is a rose, literally, and the lucid dreaming was much better there. And
That
that's
makes
where
sense. Yeah.
that's where John Dee set out on the 7 hills of Prague and made the storm that took out the Spanish Armada that he announced to Queen Elizabeth a year before he made that storm. The
Okay.
Tempest.
So it really has to do with the geometry of the city itself.
The magnetic map. That's why the real biologic
Interesting.
architects, they make a magnetic map of the land, and then they look about embedding, and they put no metal in the even in the foundation, and they create this beautiful capacitor. For example, bricks that are baked at a lower temperature have a better dielectric, and you can have more blissful, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, yeah. And so like coupling, environment with health, I mean, like deep breathing, meditation, exercise, generally eating, would you recommend, like, as a vegan, vegetarian? I noticed that a lot of the traditional ancient, Greek and Egyptian mystery schools were, at least a lot of the writings speak to vegetarian as opposed to vegan. Do you have any thoughts on that?
The pain the animal experience at the moment of death is a debt you have to pay when you eat it, for sure. Now, the shaman knew how to make a contract with the fish they caught with lucid dreaming the night before, and they could consume a fish and do honor to its memory, but it's not easy.
Interesting. That's fascinating.
So the physics here is quite clear that mostly vegan is necessary. You need spin density and life force. And a key principle here is that I tell the story, but the DNA in the corn of the Hopi would call the wind every time I was there. But the DNA in the corn you can get today is death. I mean, it's poison. You get so much mucus. And most of the grains on this planet right now, the DNA is screaming in pain, and that's why it generates so much mucus. So you need to talk to what you're going to eat and ask, when was the last time you experienced genetic diversity? And that's when the DNA sings. That DNA of the Hopi was a pet puppy. and it responded to singing, and
Is when you say that in that what sorry, what was the word? Anetic diversity? When was the last time
genetic
you Oh,
genetic.
genetic. Could you also in a more like maybe that flowing feminine sense, could you simply say when was the last time you experienced love? Would that have the same was that the same effect?
Well, yeah, but there's regenerative agriculture now, which is focused on genetic diversity. And
Oh, okay. Yeah.
genetic diversity is what gets DNA singing, and the DNA can literally be blissful, and it can be the opposite. I thought there
Mhm.
was one more area we should talk about, which is the kinesthetic, sort of the yoga and the sacred gymnastic of
Yeah.
bliss. And
Yeah, yeah.
my bliss experience started, as I told this story before, but I was in the Gurdjieff school, age 21, quit IBM systems analyst. And I started having bliss experiences doing Gurdjieff sacred gymnastic. And then I started having intense, erotic Kundalini and double Scorpio and blowing out your head and tailbone. I mean, it's pretty intense stuff. And, a lot of people are diagnosed insane from Kundalini appropriately. Kundalini psychosis or transcendence, Bentoff and Lisa and Ella were friends there. But my teacher, Bentoff, I had just done graduate psychophysiology, so I learned the physics of Kundalini. And the most important point about that is simply once you get to the charge peak of your day, and then you find the power point in your place, and you learn to get stiller and stiller and realize your attention is centripetal, you start to build a kind of implosion that lights that fire inside. And then you feel that lightning. And then ultimately you inhabit a lightning bolt. And after 30 years of that is why I can talk fast.
Just that's funny. Also very wise, like it's a funny twist at the end. Um, yeah. Okay. I guess I mean you spoke a little bit here just about like just like yoga and the gymnastics and this and that. Like I've often heard that part of like the doing even now traditionally yoga is often like meditation, right? Like there all the different kinds of yoga, and then one of the kinds of yoga that's popular in the West is like the doing the poses, and that the poses are like matching your body to various sacred geometric forms that allows for the energy to flow through you more. So you would probably say it's good to be just doing all of that, right?
Well, yes, and the physics of accreting capacitance with a movement is that if the curvature of the angle of that spiral you make with a piece of your body is correct, you feel a tingle, a burning in the tip of your finger at the moment you came to the still point in that spiral. And you've actually imploded charge capacitance that's called chi. And that ability to do that massively, it leads to this idea that your body can become this steerer of tornadoes, actually. And the hygiene for that, we've articulated pretty well at goldenmean.info/Kundalini.